Hi there everybody, it's Verity here from INKbutterfly.com. Thank you so much for joining me again today for another card making video. I'm doing another colour challenge today. This is the INKspiration colour challenge. So this is a Facebook group and they launch a new one every couple of weeks, I think. So this is cool. I like colour challenges, and it just sort of sometimes you need that little bit of a push to inspire you to create. So the colours that we're going to work with are Blackberry Bliss, which I love, Berry Burst, Lemon Lime Twist and Granny Apple Green. Okay, so that's what we're going with, and it immediately sort of screams flowers to me. Usually does when it involves a green and some other pretty colour, but it's how you then use those colours together, and which flowers do you use, do you colour, do you do you die cut, what do you do? So I've got a combination of all sorts of things today. So quite often I'll do a card where I'm just using the products within a bundle, but we're actually using 2 sets of dies and a stamp set today to coordinate this. So the feature elements are going to be done with this Label Me Grateful set, which is super cool. The companion stamp set that goes with it is a set of sentiments, okay, which were too large for the project I wanted to make. But these florals and flower and leaves are really cute. So you get 2 of the leaves, which is helpful when you're batch making, and then you've got these cute acorn sprig thingies, little leaf, and some other sprigs, and like these oak style sort of leaves, and this great shape to use as well. So it's quite a nice little set, even if you wanted to use that as a standalone set. This one I only bought the dies because I loved the dies and I wasn't so fussed about the sentiments. This is called Sentimental Framing, so it is a bundle. There is a stamp set that goes with it, but I don't have it and not using it. Okay, but I've cut this shape here. There's lots of detail, so it embosses and cuts a little bit of detail. Okay, so it's really cool. Oops. And this is what it looks like. So if I just put that on there, so you get all that embossed detail plus those little holes. Okay, and it's really pretty. Okay, and it is actually nicely sized for UK cards. Often these shapes are more suited to the shorter, wider cards that are made over the pond, but you also get that little bit in the middle. Now you could just use it like that, but I found, well, rather than cut anything that might fit that hole, I'm always going to use that for my project, so I've retained that this time, and then I put that back in the centre with a bit of ink and the sentiment. Okay, so that's cool. And then the sentiment is from Tags of Thanks. I love Tags of Thanks, it's great. I think is this one, can't remember if this is the one that comes with the punches actually, but anyway, really great sentiment, and it's a nice font that's a little bit bolder rather than being a little skinny font. These ones are a little bit more delicate, but I like these bold fonts. Okay, so that's what we're using. Links are in the description to things that I'm using today, if you wanted to take a closer look. So in the interest of time, I have done a little bit of the die cutting ahead of time. So this uses the Blackberry Bliss as the base with Berry Burst flowers, Granny Apple Green leaves. Okay, and then the Lime Twist is actually in the background with the blending. We're going to switch things up. So the layout will be the same, but I'm using a Berry Burst background. Okay, got my frame already die cut because sometimes you have to poke out some of the holes, so that's already done. And I've also cut 3 sets of leaves and 3 of the flowers. So for the design that I'm creating today, I've done 4 of the flowers, sorry, because there's only 1 of those dies. Okay, so I've used, instead of Granny Apple, I've used Lime, and instead of Berry Burst, I've used the Blackberry. So I'm just sort of mixing the colours around a bit to create the same layout, but moving it around. Okay, so we need to do 2 more of the leaves. So there are 2 of those dies, which are great. So I've got this scrap of lime cardstock, lemon lime twist cardstock. I'll confess right now, this isn't my favourite colour. It's a bit acidic for me, but you know, you go with the challenge, and sometimes you need those challenges to push you to use some colours, and sometimes, excuse me, and sometimes you realise actually, this is a more diverse colour than I thought. And these are literally scraps out of my scrap bin, and then I've got this bit, and it's, even though it's got a bit of a score line on it, but it's just about big enough to squeeze in a die cut on there, and then I've still got that strip that I can use for something else, because I do like to conserve. The cardstock's expensive, you know, and good quality cardstock is expensive, and the SU cardstock is, you know, great quality, you know, so it's worth it, but you know, I do like to make the most of it. So I'm just going to run those quickly through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss. So Stampin' Up's die cut machine, dead easy to use, Now my die's just slipped on there, which means I've only got half a the tip of that leaf's just been cut off, so that's just me rushing on the video. That's just user error. User error. Okay, so that one's got a little bit missing off the top. Okay, that's fine. We might do, yeah, okay. Rather than mess about and try and die cut another one, we'll just work with it. Okay, and they come out the die reasonably easy, but there are little release holes to help you poke those out if necessary. Okay, so that's the leaf, and then oh, the flower got left behind, so we'll just pop those out of the way. Sometimes these smaller dies just get a bit stuck on the plate, so you just lift it off with your pokey tool. As you can see, I use my cutting plates, and you can't even see through this anymore, but I use them and use them and use them until they literally fall to bits. Eventually they will, they'll start to crack with all the pressure rolling through the machine. And I die cut a lot. Those of you who follow me and watch my videos know that this is one of my favourite things in the world to do. I think it's just fascinating that you can put that much pressure onto a metal die, and I just want to zoom in a little bit. Metal die, oops, and get all that detail. It's so cool, so cool. Anyhow, there we go. Right, so am I zoomed in too high? Let me just zoom back out a little bit so you can see the whole card as I'm making. Okay, so now we've done all the die cutting, which is probably the most time consuming bit. Card base we can wait for a little while. Okay, so first things, let's add some colour. Now on the original I did add colour to the centre of the flowers, but Blackberry Bliss is so dark, it's not probably going to add much to this, but you could if you wanted to. Okay, so those flowers I use like, you know, something like some kind of rounded object, the end of a pencil or whatever. I just so happen to have this large ball tool which kind of does the job, and if you press into the centres, it curls up the petals a bit and gives it a bit of shape. Okay, so that's those. Okay, now the leaves, could add a little bit into these, which I didn't do on the original, but as we're not doing it on the flowers, we could do it on here. So I'm just going to use some scrap paper, and then we're going to bring in the, where's my ink pads gone? Let's bring in the Granny Apple Green, so that we can add some colour to these. Okay, and just gives it a bit of depth to your die cuts. Okay, rather than them being flat. Totally optional. You don't have to mess about with this if you want. These are a little bit delicate as well. They're quite fine things. So I'm just going to brush just ever so just a little bit, just around the sort of bottom of those leaves. And some might be darker than others, and that's fine because nature's not consistent either. And this will be really subtle, but it's surprising how much of a difference it makes in real life. So like I say, totally optional step, and if you don't fancy doing this bit, just skip it. Okay, but it's an option for those of you who want to step this up a little bit. Okay, so that one's got a bit more on it. That one looks cute actually. I'll just put a bit more on a couple of them. Okay, so just get that variation on those blooms. Okay, and then while we've got the green in our hand, we'll do the same with the frame. And again, I'm just going along the bottom edge and about halfway up, but I don't want this to be too heavy. I just thought it would look better than a bright white. So when I was sort of messing about with the layout, it just didn't quite look right with the bright white. Not in my opinion anyway. If you want to keep it white, you can keep it white. Remember, I'm just offering serving suggestions, so you know, if you feel like you want to change something up, use different colours, all that kind of thing. So you know, take from this what you will that suits your craft style. Okay, so we've got sort of that, I want to call it like an ombre kind of blend across there, a little bit heavier at the bottom and then fading out as we go up. And I'm using a mini blending brush. Don't often use the minis, but sometimes you need them for those delicate little bits and pieces. Okay, so on the main card, the sample, I was using a berry burst base, which meant I used I used a blackberry bliss base, so I used berry burst for the accents. So for this one, we'll switch it round and we'll use the blackberry bliss. So this is a super dark colour obviously, so just take off a lot of that ink and then add it on. Okay, just get it, might have a bit of pink on there from last time, so I'm just going to make sure that that's coming out the right colour. So this is going to, like I say, much darker. You will not need a lot of this. Okay, and again, just a little bit around that top edge, so you're sort of top coloured and the bottom coloured as a sort of inverted sort of ombre kind of style. And I've just realised while I was doing that, what I should be doing as well is adding some ink to a card insert, because we're using dark coloured cardstock. It'd be difficult to write on the inside. A lot of the time I keep the inside plain and I don't add anything. I did say I was going to try harder to do more on the insides of cards, but sometimes, you know, I don't want the videos to run too long. Some of you like it, some of you don't. So I'm just going to grab that residual ink and pop some of that on the inside so that can go in the middle to finish off the card. Okay, right, so now we've done that, I'm going to bring in the, I keep wanting to say Melon Mambo, but this is not Melon Mambo, this is Blackberry Burst. So again, it was Blackberry Bliss on the main card that I used for the sentiment, because it was the nice dark colour and bold. But as it's on white cardstock, I think the Berry Burst is going to work just fine. So I'm just going to take it into the top half of that little portion there where the ink blending is lighter, so it will still stand out. Okay, and we get that nice sentiment to add to the centre of our card. And now we've done that, my cheat for making sure we get the middle of this all centered up and everything is to tape it back into place. So I'm just going to flip these over, line them up, and just use some tape while it's flat, so that then we can add this to the card base. So let's bring in our card base. We can put our panel inside. So I'm just going to use some Stampin' Seal to do that. And I'm going to go this way, which is kind of the opposite of the blending that we've got in the on the front, but it's cool. Just sort of ties it all together. Make sure you give that a good sharp crease. Ooh. And then we can add this to the card front. So I'm just using that on the middle there. You could add some dabs of glue around the edge as well, but we've got the all the other die cuts are going to go on top, so I don't think it needs that extra bit. So we're just going to try and get that as central as possible on there, and it's all secured in. Okay, and then we just decorate. Okay, so to protect the work surface from stray glue, we can use these silicone craft sheets. Okay, got that one with a little bit of leaf that's been chopped off. Not quite sure how to disguise that. I might just have to live with it. So I'm going to use some of the multi-purpose glue. Yeah, you can see it. And I'm just going to run some glue along the sort of bottom half of these leaves. And everything's sticking because everything's hot. So there we go. And then now that they've got all the glue on, you can just sort of pick them up and position them. So we're doing 3 at the bottom and 2 at the top. So I wanted one that was going to sort of frame it all up nicely. So I'm laying that one up the side like that. Okay, and then I'm going to put another couple at the bottom, just sort of crisscrossing somewhere along there, maybe going across the bottom, but that's the broken one. So let's have that one down here, because you'll see that your eye will be drawn to it. So let's have that one going up there, and sort of just trying to sort of frame it up a little bit. That cut leaf's going to bug me. Oh, I tell you what, the other news, by the way, as well, the stamping snips are sold out, and gonna need, you need to source another supplier. So at the moment there's no snips available. I should have just die cut another one, or just not used it, or cut this while it was not stuck to the card. That's what I should have done. Anyway, I'll tidy that up after, rather than you watching me go through the pain of trying to do that. Okay. And then we just want a couple up here, again just sort of framing that detail, but it's still visible underneath everything else. Okay, so these ones aren't going to come down as far, just so that we can see. It doesn't matter if they overlap and stuff, right, because you'll be covering it up with some of the flowers. Okay, so again, Tombow or multi-purpose glue, whatever you call it. Some people call it just green glue, liquid glue basically, just a bit on the centre, and you might want to use something just to sort of press those down a little bit. Because of the shape that we've given them, they'll want to sort of fight against each other a little bit for position, because they won't sit flat obviously. We don't want them to sit flat necessarily, but we want that centre to contact and make sure that it's secure. Don't want your flowers popping off in the mail or in the envelope or whatever. Again, just using that just to give that little bit of extra pressure and make sure those are secure. Okay, we'll just press those down, and obviously these will need time to dry properly. Obviously we're not going to wait for that on the video, so you know, forgive it if it just goes it's just sliding around a bit. So the embellishments I've used these purple fine shimmer gems. So these are Harlan Heather, Grape and Berry Burst. So I thought, oh, those will do. And I might use the little ones this time, just to add just something to those centres. So they've already got those little holes in, which kind of look nice on their own anyway. There are all sorts of metallics that you could use as well. So these are super subtle, but they're just, like I say, they're supposed to be fine and shimmery, and they will twinkle away, and the recipient will be able to see those really nicely. So I use the larger ones on the sample, or you could use pearls or anything else, and you can, don't forget, you can colour your rhinestones or the antique pearls or something like that to match the card. If you don't want to use white or pearl based embellishment, you can colour over them with a Stampin' Blend permanent marker. Water-based marker won't, you know, it's a non-porous surface, so it won't dry. So those shimmer away nicely, and obviously everything needs to dry a little bit, but all intents and purposes that is complete with just a little blended card insert inside. So it does look completely different switching around the colours, doesn't it? Okay, so do let me know which is your favourite. That's the INKspiration colour combination, and there's a Facebook group, so check them out if you wanted to participate in that as well. Okay, so that's it for today. Hope you've enjoyed it and it's given you a bit of inspiration as to how to use this set. Okay, just as a little extra bonus, it's a really good set for Christmas because they look a bit like poinsettias. Okay, so that's on my Instagram if you wanted to have a look at that. So yeah, fantastic. Thanks for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed it. Do stay safe, take care, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.